Well, happy Labor Day, everyone. I hope you've all had a great weekend, and we're starting to wrap up the weekend with a Monday Mastery live at 5. So I'm glad you're all here today, and uh, it's been a good weekend. I spent my day Saturday driving down from Michigan down to Kansas City, and it was a nice easy drive. And the last couple of days I've been doing laundry, getting ready to go back next week. So it's just a hectic couple of days. And tomorrow I have the Kansas City Singles Mingle meetup that I host. So those of you in the Kansas City area are more than welcome to join us. If you're not a member of the group, if you'd like to join, you can go to meetup.com/Kansas City. And then I think it's /Kansas City Singles Mingle. And just register. So register or request membership, and away you go. And shoot, oh, there they are. Barbara says, "Hey, Barb, glad you're here. Shar, glad you're here. Hello, glad to see you here on this holiday." Yeah, I take most holidays off, but I just thought this one was a good one since it is Labor Day that I work, and that I share some ideas and thoughts with you. And one of those ideas, or one of those thoughts that has struck me is about expectations. We all have expectations, whether it's of dating or work or people, or expectations that we place on ourselves to perform, to do this, to do that, to not do this or not do that. It may be not to raid the refrigerator, which is my case, and I tend to raid the refrigerator on a regular basis. But what I found, and this came about from a comment that I received on one of my on one of my Facebook ads for my book, Dating Backward, and it's the guy was basically sorry about that. Got a hair or a fuzz. He was complaining about dating sites and that they're all useless. And it caused me to recognize that, well, no, they're not, because I know a lot of people that have great success with dating sites or dating apps. And it is all a matter of perspective, and a lot of it has to do with expectations. What do you expect that website to do for you, or that dating site to do for you? Do you expect to go on there and scroll through a few profiles and automatically find Mr. Right or Ms. Perfect? Or are you more realistic, I'm not going to judge, so let me rephrase that. Are your expectations that you can go on there and meet new and interesting people that you wouldn't normally meet in your normal walk through life, and you're able to connect with new people? And one of the biggest things that I've found through online dating and just dating in general is that when you walk in with expectations up here, up in the stratosphere, you're generally going to be disappointed. And when you expect to put in little or no effort into a dating site, when you expect to put in little or no effort looking, little or no effort and off-site dating, when you're dating in person, when you go out, or when you don't go out, yet you still expect to find your soulmate, your expectations are misaligned. there has to be a certain level of effort that goes into finding your soulmate, and depending um, on what you're looking for, how many things are on your must-have list, it will determine more how you should set your expectations. For me, I have a fairly long list of must-haves. So consequently, I recognize that I'm looking for a very special person, a very specific person. And hopefully you have your must-have list written out and your deal breaker lists written out. And so that you have some guidance. And when you look at your list, is it a long list? Is it a short list? Obviously with a shorter list, uh, you're 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 able to find more people that you can connect with, because you're not looking for a substantial number of things in a relationship, and it's more of a, yeah, I have just this handful of characteristics that I'm looking for, and the rest is just icing on the cake. And for those of us that have longer lists, well, we're more specific and said, yeah, it's going to take a little bit longer to find that special someone. So consequently, when we set expectations, we have to take a look and ask ourselves, are these expectations realistic? Uh, the big problem I find is that, and this is where a lot of people get frustrated with online dating and dating in general, because they you expect to have results almost instantly. And when I started dating, shortly after my divorce, I thought, 9 months and I'll be with my soulmate, and I'll live happily ever after. Well, that didn't quite work out. So, so I've had to readjust my expectations based on reality. And consequently, the my expectations have changed. My expectations of dating sites have changed. My expectations of dating in general have changed. I now look, at meeting people, as opposed to primarily searching for that one relationship. And don't misunderstand me, I am still looking for that extraordinary relationship, just as you should be. And but the key is to not assume that every relationship or everyone that you meet is going to be a potential mate. The idea is the idea is uh, to look at each person individually. Can they be a friend? Can they be more than a friend? Or are they somebody you need to block or ghost? Hi, baby. Thanks for joining in. So there's so much to expectations, and when I first started talking about expectations, I talked about the expectations we place on ourselves. Are we putting realistic expectations on ourselves? One of the expectations we could have is, are we all that? Are we the person that we'd love to date? And uh, you know, it's important to recognize that if we're not that person, that we need to make some adjustments in our lives, or we need to adjust our expectations. And expectations also travel in a direction that we want to set expectations for a date. And ladies, this I hear a lot of complaining about guys just wanting sex, guys just wanting things too quickly. And is that because you have not set expectations? And I'm not going to say that's the case all the time, But a lot of times, a lot of hey, Nicole, thanks for joining in. A lot of times we can eliminate or at least reduce the negative, the negative reactions or the negative or the bad dates that we have just by setting expectations up front. Does your date know what you expect? Does your date know what to expect from you? Have you shared with your date that there's no sex on the first date, there's no sex in the first month, there's no sex in the have you set that expectation? Hey Sharon, thanks for joining in. Oh, no problems. Yeah, we'll be here for at least a half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. Who knows? It depends on on everybody's comments. But this is something I learned in business, especially as a financial advisor. And when you set the expectations, there's not a lot of upset later on. One of the things that when clients would give me money to invest for them, one of the things that I always told them is to expect a loss, especially early on because of market fluctuations. And when you set the table, when you set the expectations, there's not a lot of room for being upset because you shared what you expected of the date. You shared what you expected of them. You shared you should be sharing what they can expect from you. You know, that you're going to be a class act, that you're going to be on time, you know, whatever the expectation is. You know, when you set the expectations, things will go much more smoothly. You know, there's no wondering, well, I wonder if he likes me, or I wonder if he's going to do this, or I wonder if he's going to do that. I wonder if, you know, when you set the expectations, you're laying the groundwork for the date. You're laying the groundwork for a potential relationship. And if they don't agree to that, then a lot of times by setting expectations up front, you'll chase somebody off that's not worthy of you. And that's okay. You know, the idea that every date has to work out is a bit of an unreal expectation. You know, the idea of you should set the expectation in dating that you're going out to meet somebody new, to learn about somebody new, to learn something new, and maybe learn something new about you, and it may be some of the things that you like. It may be some things you don't like, some things that you'd like in a relationship, some things that you don't want in a relationship. These are all learning opportunities if you set the right expectation. And that's a key, is to being able to set the right expectations. And again, it's setting expectations on yourself, what you will do, what you won't do, what you will say, what you won't say, or what you'll share, what you won't share, is probably more accurate. And you know, when you lay all that stuff out ahead of time, again, your dating experience is going to be a much better experience. And that's and again, I circle back to the guy that was talking about, you know, bad, you know, all dating sites are terrible. I hear the same thing from women, you know, and it's kind of a universal thing. But then on the flip side, I have friends, I have clients that have had nothing but good experiences with online dating, you know, and it's all a matter of expectations. When your expectations are aligned with the activity, then you're going to have some much better results. Hey, Addie, thanks for joining in. Hope you all are doing great this weekend. We're getting ready to start a strange week here. and I'm digressing a little bit. It's 90 degrees here in Kansas City, and I was just looking. It's 55 up in Michigan and northern Wisconsin, and tomorrow it's supposed to be about 67 or 68 here in Kansas City for a week. So at least I got in on some warm weather. So, and Nicole says sites are bad. I met my ex-husband on one, or soon to be ex. And you know, Nicole, not every site is going to provide great results. And the question I would have is, what were your expectations, or what were your must-haves and deal breakers when you met your husband or your future ex? Where was the relationship? Was it the dating site, or was it the guy? So that just some questions there. Hey, Karen, thanks for joining in. Susan, welcome. And thank you. Susan says, great topic. And thank you. And it's something that I find that's very common, that we, too many times, we don't set expectations. We don't, and when we don't set expectations, we assume that everybody else is going to be on the same page as we are. Too many people assume that everyone else's morals and values and wants and needs and desires are the same as ours, and they're not. And that's part of the importance of laying the groundwork, or setting the ground rules or expectations that we want to. Oh, I just lost my thought. I'm looking at notes here. Let me just put this up here real quick. Addie says, I've had good and bad experiences on dating sites, and I've tried a few different ones. And Addie, that's a great approach. Try different sites, because some sites are better than others. Some sites are going to give you better results than others. But a lot of it circles back around to how your profile is written, and the content that you put in your profile. And I've harped on this the last couple of weeks, and as far as online dating, is creating a good profile. Spend some time, invest some time in it, and you'll be surprised at the higher quality results. The more time you invest in creating a good profile, the better your results are. And there's still going to be, you're still going to have the guys that just look at pictures and say, hey babe, we've got a lot in common. I think we should get together. And you're still going to have that. And ladies, you all have that more than guys do. We have to accept some of the responsibility for our own results. We can't always blame the websites for it, or the dating apps for it, because we're the ones that have created the information that we're putting out there. So that's something to take a look back at and see what's going on there. Barbara says, I like what you said about it is just a tool. This has changed my attitude and how I present myself in my profile. There you go, Barbara. That's exactly right. It is just a tool. And when you set that expectation that it is just a tool, and that it's not a magic wand, it's not a magic potion to find that special someone for you. It's a tool to help you connect with other people. And let's see. Sue says, "Oh my God, they have not the same morals. Fell in love and stays." I'm not quite sure what that means, but yeah, everybody has different morals and values, and it's important to recognize that. And that's part of what the dating process is all about. And especially when from an online dating perspective, it's you take some time to connect with them through text or through messaging. And if you like what you see or like what you're reading, then you move to a phone conversation. And a lot of the dating sites have a phone app built in, so you don't have to share numbers. You can just call through the app. But the important part is start developing the communication. Even before you meet, talk to them on the phone. And if somebody doesn't want to talk on the phone, or all they want to do is text and then move immediately to meeting, I would be that would. And I was just talking with someone last night about that very thing, and it's about it's about being comfortable with somebody before you move to the step of meeting someone. Hey, Jerry, thanks for joining in. Addie says, let's put that up here. I've had issues when it comes to setting expectations, when it comes to communication and how often or when to expect responses. Just this past week, I ran into an issue with someone new I started dating. I'm hoping to discuss it this week in detail with him. And that's a great point. When you set the expectations for communication when you're dating somebody, it can be so frustrating. We get used to a certain pattern. Maybe over the weekend, texting goes back and forth real quickly, but during the week, when you're at work or when you're busy doing things, you can't always expect an immediate response. Your partner has things going on. Now, one of the things that I talk about on a regular basis is when they don't respond as to your text, and it may even take days. You have to start wondering, well, what else could this mean? What else could be going on in this person's life that I don't know about? And I've had that happen to me so many times. And I just want to put that out there that you have to ask yourself the question, what else could this mean? I was talking to someone last night, and she was sharing a story with me about that very thing. And it was when she was in her 20s, and the guy she really liked, they'd only had a couple of dates, and he went down to Houston for a job interview, and he said, "I'll call you when I get back." Well, she never heard from him, and so she assumed that he wasn't interested, and she moved on. And they ran into each other several years later after she had been married, or after she had gotten married. And he said, "Oh my God, why didn't you call me?" And she explained her understanding of the conversation. And he said, "Oh, and what he realized is he dropped the ball." And so we have to always think through what's going on and what might be happening on the other side. Addie says it was days and I hadn't heard from him. I called, let's see, let me put this up so it's easy to read. I called him out asking if he was ghosting me, found out he wasn't trying to. Meanwhile, in my mind was racing and wondering. Absolutely. And so that's Addie, that's a great conversation to have with him. But make sure that you're not pointing fingers and saying, "You didn't call me. Why didn't you call?" Because when you're pointing the accusing finger at him, you've got three fingers pointing back at you. So don't automatically race to the conclusion that something is wrong, that something is that he's ghosting you. You'll find out what's going on in his life, and there may be some very legitimate things going on. Don't approach it though as a situation where you feel that especially if it's a new relationship, that you have a right to his time, because you haven't earned that right yet. Um, and I'd be very cautious, Addie, because your divorce is not final. There's going to be some big changes in your life, and those of you that are divorced that are on here can back me up on this. It takes time to recover from a divorce. You're one person right now, and you'll be somebody different a year, 2 years down the road. Okay. Addie says she was nice and tactful. Well, that's good. But I threw Addie, I threw up that caution because I know how people can be. They get cranked out of shape, and because our expectations are such that, and we haven't shared that with the other person. But now, as you have a conversation with this gentleman, you can tell him, these are what my expectations are. These are what I expect when we're in a relationship. If we're going to continue, I expect to have regular contact with you. I don't expect you to just disappear off the face of the earth. Now, if he disagrees and doesn't want to have that kind of a relationship, maybe he's not ready for a relationship. Maybe he's got other things going on, and when you're getting into when you start dating someone new, don't automatically assume that you're exclusive. That's there's again another expectation that we set. So many times I talk to people that if they've asked them if they've had that conversation with their partner, well, no. Well, then why would you expect them to be there at your beck and call if you've not had that conversation? It's all part of expectations as you date, as you get into relationships. What are the things that you want in communication, in time together, in vacations, in just in life in general. And those are all things, that's all part of the communication process. It's something that you have to share with the on a first date, a second date, as you're deciding that this is a good relationship. Hey, Sue, thanks for joining in. Thanks for being here. So there's a lot of different things that need to go into consideration, when you set the expectations up front, or when you come into a situation like Addie talked about, and you start a conversation and then it fades off and he disappears. Those are when you recognize those things, when you recognize those potential issues, then it's time to have that conversation and set the expectations. And at least share with him your expectations, or her. I'm sure we've got a few guys on here. The guys are usually pretty quiet in the background, so so guys, if you're here, jump in. You're welcomed into this conversation too, and it's always good to get another point of view, especially for the ladies. So Addie, I hope some of those things are giving you food for thought, and the rest of you. I hope Addie's comments are giving you some ideas of things that you need to think about when you're dating, or as you start to date. And just keep things keep things open, so that your lines of communication are always open. One of the most frustrating things is to try to figure out what somebody else wants when they're not sharing with you. And again, it goes back to having the same morals, or sharing the same morals and values, but not everybody is like that. Not if we were identical, or all shared the same shared the same morals and values, it would be easy to go out and find somebody. Oh, you're welcome, Addie. Thank you. It'd be easy to go out and find somebody that because we're all looking for the same thing. Unfortunately, we're not all looking for the same thing. We want different characteristics. We want different qualities, and our partners, our potential mates, aren't going to know that until we share it with them. You know, and share. I talked to a woman this weekend that wouldn't date someone because he lived too far away or he traveled a lot, and that made it hard for her to jump into a relationship or to start a relationship, because her expectation was that he would be local, or at least within a very, very short driving distance, and it wasn't. That was just something she wouldn't accept, or it wouldn't work for her. And so consequently, that relationship never got off the ground, but she was wise enough to share that expectation up front. So what else have we got? Addie's been very, very vocal today, and I appreciate that. Barb's has pitched in here, and so if any of you have any other questions or thoughts or concerns, please shoot those to me, and we'll talk about it. But hey, Teresa, thanks for joining in. But it's so important to set the expectations. When you set the expectations for a date, when you set the expectations for a relationship, you're going to have a lot fewer problems, and it makes life so much easier, a lot less heartache. Hey, Denise, thanks for joining in. Terry, thank you. Let me pull this up here real quick. Terry says, I went out with a guy on Monday. We were going to get together again Friday, but his work took him out of town, so he notified me in a reasonable time, and we canceled. I was going out of town for 2 weeks and haven't heard from him during that time, or during the time I was gone, or since I got back. Do I assume he ghosted me, or should I text and ask if we are done? Terry, that's a great question. I would text him and find out. Never assume anything. It's, when you assume, because again, you don't know what's going on his end. He may have run into some snags business wise if he's had to go out of town. And so just text him and say, I've had to do that myself, where somebody just seems to disappear off the face of the earth, and you write and say, we haven't had a conversation here in a while. Is everything okay, or are we done? And should we move on? And 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a response. Oh, I'm so sorry. I've just been tied up with all of this stuff. And Susan says, I'm in that situation now. He lives over an hour away. And Susan, and that's all a matter of preference for you. For me, an hour, that's nothing. But I had a conversation with somebody on my meetup group that driving 30 miles was a big deal for her. And so, it's all a matter of your preferences, what you're comfortable with, what you're not. It just, distance is going to give you a little bit of, there are pros and cons to distance. And, some of the pros that I see are that, you can spend time on the phone, you can spend time on video, like a Zoom or a Skype or a FaceTime conversation, and get to know somebody that way. And then you remove the physicality out of it. And because let's face it, when you're in close physical proximity, sex gets can be thrown into the mix way too soon. And you tend to, if in close, when you're in that close physical proximity, the clothes tend to come off a lot sooner than they do if you're an hour apart, if you're 10 hours apart, whatever it is. So that there are some positives there. Some of the negatives are that it's harder to get together. You have to be more planned, or um, more intentional about getting together. It's not, you're not 15 minutes down or across town, or around the corner, and can get together anytime you want. So some of those things have to be a little more thought out. Hey, Lois, thanks for joining in. Teresa says, I had a guy on Facebook who wanted more than being my friend, and as fast as became a friend, he blocked me because I want more than just sex. And that, and that's exactly to my point. Uh, and then she says, I have driven 3 hours, or she's having to drive 3 hours, and that's a great point. So, the you have to determine what the relationship looks like to you. If driving an hour is not in your wheelhouse, or it's not what you desire, uh, then you have to move on. The one caution I would say there is, when you're searching for your soulmate, don't necessarily assume your soulmate is going to be right around the corner. It sometimes is going to be a process of searching outside of your area. And when you search outside the area, you open up the possibility of finding a significantly larger number of people that are potential mates. And I mean, as long as you're not locked into where you are, and even if you are, maybe your potential mate isn't. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have a relationship if somebody's an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours away. It's inconvenient to begin with, but it could have the potential for more later on. It's just, you have to work through things in the beginning, and then if it's a strong relationship, if it has great potential, then you figure out how to move forward from there. And Teresa says, I think that if he or she is the one, he or she would be worth the drive. And that's a great observation, Teresa. Thank you. It's But again, it's all a matter of what your wants and needs and desires are. What are your expectations? And Susan, I'm going to throw this out there. Maybe your expectation is you've set an expectation that is going to make it much more difficult for you to find that right person. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying you are or aren't. And it's just something for you to think about. It is that hour of driving that big a deal, and is it something that the two of you can't work out, where he drives, you drive, he drives? And Susan says, I agree, but let's see, let's put it up here so everybody can see. I agree, but it's pretty hard to get to know each other. Well, and that's it is a little bit harder because you're not in close physical proximity. But by the same token, like I said, you can do Zoom, you can do Skype, you can do FaceTime, and have some face-to-face time. That way, it's just, you can't hold hands, you can't snuggle, you can't do those types of things. It's harder to cook together, or do some of those things, but that's all part of nurturing a relationship, is working through those aspects, and seeing how you can make it work. And sometimes it's how we frame the situation. Is that a deal breaker for you, or is it something that's difficult, but yes, we can work through it. Is he worth pursuing further to see if that distance is that big a deal? That's the question I would toss out to you. And Sue says the guy was with needed to see other people, but before this, he bought me a ring and said we would get married in 7 months. I didn't want him to buy a ring that soon. And there are guys out there, Sue, that are going to do that. And if he needs to see other people and yet still wants to get you a ring, that is really the wrong guy, because what he wants is he wants his cake. He wants to and to be able to eat it too, so to speak. That is something that is not a healthy relationship, and that sounds like he expects you to stick around and be there for him, yet he can go out and do as he pleases. And my guess is if you told him, well, fine, then I'll go out and see other people too, that he would quickly back up and say, no, I don't want you to do that. And then you'd really find out what you have. Teresa says you can make time to video chat each day and get to know each other. That's exactly right. Barbara says, to find that right person, I would consider a long distance relationship. Sometimes it is the only way to find your soulmate. And that's my contention, but I'm not, I'm not the judge for each and every one of you. And Susan says, I'm willing to try, just need to figure out logistics. That's exactly right. Now that's the attitude to have, Barbara, or Susan. That's, just figuring it out, and it takes time, and it's not going to be easy. But it can be worked out. And Terry says, I know couples that live thousands of miles apart, but made it work. They're flying back and forth and vacation together, and then boom, one of them moves to the other. And that's exactly right. And that's my point. It's, initially it can be very difficult, but you take time to get to know each other. And, it's just a matter of how much effort you're willing to put into it. If you demand that somebody, that your potential partner has to be there and you have to be able to be spontaneous and do things, well, then a long distance relationship obviously isn't going to work for you. But if you can be flexible, if you can adjust schedules, if you can go there, or she can come here, or whatever it is, on every other weekend or every weekend, however you structure it, it maybe it's such that he or one of you can spend a week at a time with the other, and that can go a long way to making it work. And Teresa says it has to do with maturity. I think if a person is serious and not playing games, then I would take a chance, because life is short and you could be missing a great person. I've learned to take a risk and see what's out there. That's a great attitude, Teresa. And that's sometimes exactly what you have to do. You have to take a risk. You have to step outside the box. No, this is not what you expected. This was not what your expectations were. But sometimes it helps to step back from the situation and say, is this what I really want? Is this person? Does this person have the potential to be a long-term relationship or be my soulmate? And if the answer is yes, I highly encourage you to continue to pursue the relationship. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You've invested a little bit of time, but to throw something out because of some distance can be problematic too. So And let's see. Sue says we both moved from Mount Pleasant Place, and after I moved in with him, he said that it wouldn't be the same at the place. Well, and that's going to happen, and that's unfortunately that it sounds like that situation didn't work out for you, and that's why it's always hard to move in and to uproot and move in with somebody if you haven't been able to spend much time with them, and you know that requires a lot of conversation up front and getting to know somebody really well, because especially for those of you that have, like me, that have been divorced for a while or single for a while, whether it's divorced or widowed, you become accustomed to your lifestyle. And I've talked to several people recently that said they didn't know if they could let someone into their lives because their current life is so basically carved in stone. They're so comfortable with what's going on with their own lives, they didn't know if they had room for somebody else. And I can, and I understand that, but I contend that if you're with the right person, you'll figure out a way to make it work. And Sue, I'm sorry that it sounds like that didn't work, and that's always it's always a possibility, but it's always a problem. And it's just when somebody, and it doesn't make any difference whether it's the guy or whether it's the woman, when somebody changes their mind after the fact, and maybe it would take more time for him to get acclimated to the situation, because face it, when you move in with somebody, it's a major disruption, and it takes a while to adjust. And again, it's about setting expectations. Before you move in with somebody, let's talk about what's going on. Let's talk about what we expect in the relationship. Let's talk about what we expect from our partner in household duties or household chores, and who takes care of what. And again, you're setting expectations. And if you can't agree on those expectations, or and unfortunately somebody says, yeah, they're all excited about moving you out, that's fine, that sounds good, and all of a sudden you get together and it's, oops, well, I didn't think it was going to be like that. Teresa says, let's see. Teresa said, oop, that jumped out of there. Teresa says, are we women wrong in thinking that if a man doesn't say good morning, or takes all day to say hi, that we aren't being thought of by him? I don't know that that's actually the case, Teresa, but if he's taking all day to say hello to you, then I can pretty much tell you that's the wrong relationship. I would move on quickly. Karen says, I'm interested in people's experiences dating during a pandemic. Well, Karen, it's and that and the rest of the audience, the rest of the group can chime in. But again, there's Zoom, there's FaceTime, there's Skype, and there's several other video chats that you can spend time getting to know somebody. And if you get to know each other, and if you're comfortable meeting, there are places that are open that you can at least in the Kansas City area. I know there's some places that there aren't any access like that. And so you just kind of have to play it by ear. But you could go to a park. You can go do some other things where you can be together. It's just you may not, you just don't have all of the options that you did 6 months ago or 10 months ago. where you could go to any location, meet somebody for a cocktail. And but spend your time on Zoom or Skype or FaceTime, video conferencing, and you can get to meet somebody and have some really great conversations that way. And let's see, I'm getting bombarded here. Shar says, I met someone at the beginning of this pandemic, and it was long distance, so we did lots of time together. Together together with nowhere to go. And there you go. That's but that's spending time together. You could spend time in the kitchen. Terry says, I don't expect daily text. Well, there you go. And that's and that's something you should share. But what if he does text you daily? What if he texts you in the morning, says hi, or says hello, beautiful, or good morning, beautiful? Those are always fun to receive. Or good morning, handsome. That was good news, bad news. Okay. And let's see, Rosie, I love Rosie. She's from Australia. She's joining us today. My opinion is that flexibility and compromise with open and honest communication is key. Usually by the time people hit their mid to late 20s, they already have previous experiences, good and bad, in relationships, and are somewhat set in their ways. As long as their quirks are something that you can live with happily, then trust in love again. Just don't get caught up in the happily ever after, because it looks completely different for everyone. That's exactly right. Thanks, Rosie. That's a great comment. And it's so important to get past previous relationships before you jump in and try to develop a new relationship. Addie says, I haven't had any issues dating during the pandemic. Terry says, I like to meet at the park and walk the trails together. Sue says, gambling problem. What did I miss there, Sue? And Teresa says, some of us need more attention. Addie says, if let's see, let me just put this one up. If it's someone I'm really into, I enjoy a daily text. There you go. And Sue says, this guy had a gambling problem and was working 7 days a week and never helped around the apartment. That's a problem relationship right from the very beginning. Anytime there's an addiction, whether it's drugs, alcohol, gambling, pornography, that is going to be a problem relationship. And you don't always see that up front. But if he's spending an inordinate amount of time at the casino in the beginning, then that gets to be hard to hide after a while. And I'm sorry that happened, Sue. But hopefully you've moved on and you're able to you're able to take some learnings away from that. I will admit, Teresa says, I will admit I need a lot of attention and love. Yes, you do. I know, Teresa. So, and that's not a derogatory thing. Teresa's a lovely woman. And so there are so many things that we need to talk about. We need, and again, we need to set the expectations for the relationships. When you're getting ready to move in with somebody, set the expectations on who's gonna do what around the house. And it's like Sue says, he had a problem and never wanted to do anything. Well, and maybe the part of the solution to that would have been to just start spending time at his place, or he start spending time at your place, as opposed to moving in together. I don't know. And maybe that would have worked. Maybe that would have helped. Maybe it wouldn't. But there's a lot of potential for miscommunication there. So let's see, go back here. And Susan says, he is moving forward faster than me. Yes, says I love you, but I'm not there yet. He knows that, but it makes me uncomfortable. Well, and there's Susan. That's a conversation you have to have. Now, you understand that there was a study in the UK a couple of years ago, that probably 5 years ago, that showed that men will say I love you about twice as fast as a woman will. And so it's that's not unusual. But you have to have the conversation with him and say, hey, listen, I'm not there yet. And just explain how it makes you feel. And hopefully you can share with him that and he will listen to you and step back from that a little bit and give you time and give you space to and not to avoid him, but to become comfortable with him. The question I would ask you, Susan, is he's moving too fast, and are there things about him that you don't like? Are there characteristics? Does he have everything on your must-have list, or does he have any of your deal breakers? And if he doesn't have all of your must-haves, or if he has any of your deal breakers, then I would seriously evaluate whether you're in the right relationship. I would tell you that you're in the wrong relationship if any of that stuff is present. Teresa says, I love the honesty of a relationship. That maybe I am wrong and will scare him off, but I like to tell a man how I feel. And if you're with the right man, Teresa, then you won't scare him off. He'll graciously accept your compliments and your love. Rosie says, also, don't settle for familiarity. If it doesn't make you happy, and I was just mentioning that, if it doesn't make you happy more often, then you're compromising on things that are important. It's time to have a serious, open discussion. If your partner doesn't know, they can't change. But if they do and still don't make an effort to take it on board, then it's time to get back out there and find the person who will appreciate you for you. That's exactly right. Rosie, you, for such a young woman, you have a lot of wisdom. Susan says, oh, I have. And Char says, Rosie, that is oh so true. There right now. So and Char, Rosie, I've known Rosie for, Rosie, what is it, about almost 20 years? Has it been that long? Oh my gosh. And I met Rosie when she was an exchange student through Rotary Youth Exchange, and she's quite. I've watched her over the years, and she's become quite the woman. So anyway, that's my conversation on setting expectations. Set the expectations for your date, for your relationship, for your life. And and if your expectations are too rigid, too strict, too narrowing, take a look at those expectations and review if they're the right thing for you. And Rosie has one more here. Rosie says everyone has a type that they're attracted to, and sometimes it's not a good attraction for you. Step outside your type, because chances are your type isn't right for you at this time in your life. Very good observation. Very good observation, Rosie. I appreciate that. And so it's again, setting expectations, and just like Rosie says, Rosie says, "Oh gosh, I feel like it's been a very long time indeed. A friendship that I value so much." Oh, Rosie, that's so sweet. I love you too, and we had a connection almost from the first meeting where we met. So anyway, think about your expectations. Don't assume everybody is going to know what your expectations are. Share them with your date or pre-date, and so that they know what to expect, or have some expectations of what the date should be like. And as you're getting into a relationship, set the expectations, or share what your expectations are, and find out what his or her expectations are in return. And so consequently, when you open those lines of communication, it will make things go a lot smoother. You'll have far fewer disappointments. It's not to say that you're not going to be disappointed in life. You will. There are going to be relationships that you think are just fantastic, or they start out that way and they don't end that way. So but the more upfront you can be, the more you can share, and the more they share back with you, the stronger the potential relationship is going to be. Or at least you're going to recognize that, no, this isn't a great relationship, and you can share that also. So anyway, with that, I hope you all have had a great Labor Day weekend, and we're wrapping it. We're just a few hours away from the end of that, and I hope you all have a great and blessed week. For those of you that have kids going back to school, be safe, and have a great and blessed week. And we'll see you all next week. There's a couple of quick comments here. Barbara says, "I feel you're giving me homework. This is great. Getting me going is in the right direction." Thank you, Barbara. I appreciate that. Let's see. Terry says, "Dating takes too much work." Ugh. It's only as much work as you make it. Dating is not easy, and it never will be. The idea is that you do have to put in effort. There's no magic wand. There's no magic potion. Shar says, "Thanks for another great Monday mastery, Rick. Very wonderful, or very helpful." Thank you. Teresa, you're welcome. Susan, you're welcome. Karen, Addie, you're welcome. And thank you, Terry. I'm glad we found each other too. So have a great week, everyone. I'll see you next week. I'll be back in Michigan next week for probably about a month as I wrap up my summer activities up there, and then I will be back here mid-October, and we'll rock and roll from there. So, but I will see you next Monday for another Monday Mastery live at 5. Oh, one cheap plug here. Let's grab this real quick. If you guys have problems, questions, I highly recommend my book, Dating Backward. If you struggle with dating, and a lot of the questions, a lot of the stuff that we talked about today, a lot of the stuff that I talk about every week is available in Dating Backward. And pull it back here. And so just pick up a copy of that. You can go to my website, you can go to Amazon, or you can get it on an e-version, the Kindle, and just take a look at it, and see, there's a lot of great resources and help in that book. So anyway, have a great and blessed week, and I will see you all. Terry says she's got the book. Well, thank you, Terry. I appreciate it. Rosie, yes, it is available on Audible. So, or no, not Audible. No, I'm sorry. It's I've not done the audio recording. It's available on Kindle only, the digital. So, Sheila, thanks for saying hi. Thank you. You are too. I hope to see you tomorrow night at Kansas City Singles Mingle. And for those of you in the Kansas City metro area that are not a member of the Kansas City Singles Mingle meetup group, come and join us and see what it's all about. Meet some new single friends. And with that, I will see you all next week. Thanks, folks. Love you all.